today's press conference is calling in Josh Kraft, not necessarily calling him out, calling him in to do the very basic, fundamental thing of transparency. Where's your money? Where's it going? How do you contribute to society? That's all we're asking for. And it's the same thing I have to do every single year. When I file my SFI, and I've been filing it every single year since I was a city councilor, Mayor Wu's been filing, and we have 12 years of her transparency. We also have 2 tax returns from her from 21 and this year 25. So he wants to be the mayor of Boston, and we're asking him to be totally transparent about where all of his money and all of his interests are going. Look, I have an LLM in taxation. I have a master's degree in understanding how money is moved and how people like to hide their money. But you don't need an LLM to understand that this is intentional, that he is delaying and trying to distract us with all sorts of things about bike lanes and all sorts of tolling and whatever he wants to do, because fundamentally, it doesn't take you 5 months to just be transparent. It does take you 5 months to hide. It does take you 5 months to try and maybe clean up tax returns and prevent people from actually knowing where your money's going. In today's day, like, we're dealing with a president who barely wants to show us where his money's going. And when he did, he ended up getting a refund. He's not Trump. I'll say that fundamentally. But he's acting Trump-like when you don't disclose where your money's going. All we're asking for is a fundamental, basic level of transparency. And honestly, it wouldn't kill him to also file an SFI. He's a billionaire. And billionaires right now are paying less in percentage of taxes than the average working Bostonian. Is he like that? Is he one of those billionaires, or is he doing his fair share? This state is about people paying their fair shares. We passed a ballot initiative in the state of Massachusetts to make sure that billionaires and millionaires paid their fair share. I just want to make sure that Josh Kraft, who's running to be mayor, actually is paying his. That's why I'm here today. I'm calling him in, not calling him out, and saying, do the right thing, stop delaying, please give us your tax returns, and also file your SFI. That's it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Shamia Turner from the Sheet Metal Workers for her comments as well.
Thank you, Lydia. Well said. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shamia Turner, and I represent the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 17, and I represent working class people. And simply put, Josh Kraft, where are your taxes? We have played this game with politicians before, and we know not showing us who you are up front and not keeping your word leads to unprecedented lack of transparency and unfulfilled promises. For those that keep the city running, those that build the buildings, and those that work in them afterwards, we are tired of the rules only applying to some of us. I have seen Michelle Wu's taxes and know she understands a life closer to my own. She has been a public servant of Boston for a long time. I was first introduced to her work in the Menino administration and on the city council. I was first introduced to Josh Kraft via a fundraising invite that depicted New York City rather than Boston. I'm not convinced that Josh Kraft knows our city. I'm not convinced he isn't just one more elite that thinks the city of Boston is up for sale. I've seen Michelle Wu's commitment to working class people in the city, and Boston is not for sale. We are not a monopoly space that you can purchase with your big donor money. You promised to release your taxes months ago. Where are they? Thank you. And I will pass it off to Dr. Taylor Walker.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Dr. Taylor Walker. I'm a board-certified family medicine physician at Cambridge Health Alliance and the national president of CIR-SEIU. We are the largest union of physicians in the United States, representing 40,000 residents and fellows across the country, including 4,500 here in the city of Boston. We just made history by securing the first ever union contract for the residents and fellows at Mass General Brigham. Thank you. After a 1.5 year long fight. That is a big deal. Thank you. Yeah, our residents and fellows are the first ever unionized employees in Mass General Hospital's history, and that is not an accident. I'm seeing some nods. This has become common knowledge, guys. Labor is winning. Y'all listen. Josh Kraft sits on the board at Brigham and Women's Hospital. His billionaire brother, Jonathan, chairs the board at Mass General Hospital and serves on the board at Mass General Brigham. Through their direct investments, their board seats, and their wealth, Josh Kraft and his family hold power over our people's lives and their livelihoods. For 6 months, Josh Kraft has dodged and ducked every single question about his family's conflicts and has dodged providing even a basic level of transparency that our state ethics laws require. For the last 6 months, the Kraft family has stonewalled Boston about the Everett Stadium project, refusing to provide basic project information, right? While making these lowball offers to our community. I've been a doctor at CHA's Everett Hospital for 5 years. And that means that I've seen firsthand how these development projects can impact the working families of Everett, some of whom have been there for decades, generations. And we know that Everett takes care of its people. Everett takes care of itself. Josh Kraft is literally a pre-approved owner of the New England Revolution who would play in Everett Stadium. How in the world can he negotiate faithfully or fairly on behalf of the city when he and his family stand to rake in millions of dollars from this project? 5 months ago, Josh Kraft promised to release his financial records. Mayor Wu released hers, as you've heard, so where are his? Boston's healthcare workers and all of its citizens deserve to know, what financial entanglements do you have, Josh? What corporate interests or profit might influence the decisions that you make for the people in this city? When we're fighting for fair wages and patient safety, are you going to stand with our workers or with your friends and family in your corporate boardrooms? CIR made history at Mass General Brigham because we demanded transparency and accountability from corporate power in Boston and from the state's largest employer. We're here today to demand the same transparency and the same accountability from the man who says that he wants to run our city. So, Josh Kraft, honor your promise. Release your tax records. Boston's healthcare workers and its citizens will not accept another oligarch who dodges accountability and won't cop to their conflicts of interest. Thank you so much. I'm proud to introduce Carol Lasky from Ward 4 Democrats.
Good morning. I'm Carol Lasky. I'm the co-chair of the Boston Ward 4 Democratic Committee. My ward committee spans the neighborhoods of the Back Bay, Fenway, and the South End. And we're founding members of a brand new alliance of Democratic ward committees from all over the city whose fundamental core priority is transparency at every level. We have held successful forums, including the first 2025 mayoral forum back in May. You may remember the golden moment when candidate Kraft was asked, "What's your ward?" And he didn't know, and our mayor had to hold up 3 fingers to give him a cue. Our ward alliance calls out hypocrisy and lack of transparency at every level, wherever we see it, from the city council right up to the state house. We are the rank and file, neighborhood level voices asserting that public service is a privilege. It's incumbent upon candidates to show us where their interests are. We don't need a mayor that needs to recuse himself. We don't need a mayor who's looking out for his Trump cronies and out-of-state billionaires. That candidate is simply unworthy, no matter what his personal financial worth. We need a mayor. We need Mayor Wu, whose only interest is in what is in the best interest of the city of Boston. One of the things that our cross-city ward alliance does is we write letters and we try to get response. We wrote a letter to the OCPF back in May asking for an investigation of the Kraft campaign and several of the PACs that are fueling his campaign. We haven't received a response yet, but we keep hoping. And I also want to share a letter that we wrote in early July to candidate Kraft directly.
The mic's not working.
Good? Much better. Let me start that sentence over. I'd like to add that in early July, our Ward Alliance wrote a letter directly to candidate Kraft. I'm going to just read a portion of it. It was long and it was exhaustive and it had lots of research in it. It reads in part, Mr. Kraft, we are concerned that you are following a now familiar Trump playbook of repeatedly promising to release your taxes without ever actually doing so. After injecting many millions of dollars of your family's wealth into your campaign, voters have every right to understand the conflicts of your family's business interests. Until you are able to demonstrate convincingly that your campaign is not being jointly managed by Trump donors and their constituents, we ask that you cease describing your campaign as Josh Kraft, Democrat for mayor. We have not received a response. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Maurice Cunningham, retired UMass professor.
Sure. All right.
Outdoor voices.
Yeah, the sound system failing is something my students wished for many, many years. My name is Maurice Cunningham. I'm a retired professor of political science at the University of Massachusetts at Boston. For many, many years, I have studied the effects and influence of big money on politics and the efforts to hide big money, conceal big money from voters. And that's why I'm here today, to add my voice to those demanding that Josh Kraft release his tax returns. This is all the more important in this case because Mr. Kraft is the largest donor to his own campaign. $2 million so far, and it's only July. Moreover, there have been serious questions, as you've already heard, of possible coordination between the Kraft campaign and the super PAC backing Mr. Kraft, including reports that we have read that Mr. Kraft's father has been raising money for both committees, and has induced millionaire and billionaire friends of his to contribute to the super PAC, which, as we know, can accept unlimited sums of money. For example, $1 million contribution comes from a billionaire from Pennsylvania, of all places. You know, and so I think all of these the lack of clarity here leaves a lot of questions to be answered, questions that we can begin to answer, I hope, with the release of those tax returns, and Josh Kraft should do that immediately. I'm going to turn things over to my old friend David Sullivan.
Good morning. My name is David Sullivan. Like Mo, I'm retired. I was the top lawyer for the Massachusetts Senate, the Massachusetts Secretary of State, and the State Ethics Commission. I am not a Boston voter. I'm not a close friend of Mayor Wu. I am here today because I am very concerned about what I see happening in this race. I see one of the candidates who is not being transparent and not being held accountable, as you have heard this morning. I used to help administer the system at the Ethics Commission, where anybody who was even running for office, much less holding office, had to file something called a Statement of Financial Interest, SFI. That in Boston only applies to people holding office. Unfortunately, it doesn't yet apply to someone running for office. So Mr. Kraft has not had to file that SFI. The next best thing would be, so I agree with Senator Edwards, A form is available, let him file it. He doesn't have to file it, he should file it. But the next best thing would be for him to disclose his tax returns, as he has promised to do on several occasions, and as he has yet to do. A lot of the most important information would be in those tax returns. Why doesn't he provide them? So I've been in the area of transparency and accountability for public officials and candidates for many years, both on the inside of state government and as an active citizen. I'm very concerned about what's going on in this race. I'm especially concerned about what Mo Cunningham just said about the alleged coordination between a super PAC and a candidate, which is of course illegal under state law. If that's true, it's an attempt to avoid the very important contribution limits that we put on candidate campaigns. It's a way to get around those limits and to have unlimited contributions from people who have special interests in the way that Boston government is run. It is not acceptable for someone like that to be the mayor of Boston, especially not acceptable if he has not disclosed all of the special interests that could affect his mayoralty. Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Winter. Is she here? Great. She's from 50501, which is the great organization that's been organizing all these demonstrations that some of us have been attending. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Winter, and I am the Executive Director of Mass 5051. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that defends democracy in the United States and here in Massachusetts. You may know us as one of the key organizers of the Hands Off, No Kings, and Good Trouble Lives On protests right here in Boston. At Mass 5051, we do not aim to advocate for any political party or partisan agenda. Instead, we exist to respond to the rising threat of authoritarianism posed by this current federal administration and the dark money backing them. I am here today as part of that mission. Mass 5051 cannot stand idly by while an oligarch attempts to buy an election from the people of Boston. This is not merely a Boston problem or a Massachusetts problem, but an American problem. The amount of money required to win an election has more than doubled since the decision of Citizens United versus FEC in 2010. And while money doesn't always equal victory, it usually does. We saw how Elon Musk used his billions to heavily influence the 2024 election. But we also saw how he tried to do the same this year in Wisconsin and failed. Americans are waking up. We are here today because the oligarchy must be stopped here in Massachusetts too. We don't need more candidates backed by dark money and beholden to corporate interests. We don't need politicians who are more concerned with keeping billionaires happy than fighting for the good of their constituents. Josh Kraft and his backers have already spent millions of dollars, not to demonstrate what he has to offer the people of Boston, but to attack and tarnish the reputation of a mayor who has dared to stand up to Donald Trump's merciless policies and who has advocated fiercely for all Bostonians. We begin building a better America here at home in Boston. We are here to demand the transparency and dedication to people over billionaires that Bostonians and all Americans deserve. Josh Kraft, what are you hiding in your tax returns?